tandems keep getting jobs. Don't worry about it. I'ma say, I can't wait to say it. I love it. I love it. Go.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NotBland Show. And this NotBland Show is going to be different, man. We're going to have a little throwback for you, a little Inside the NHRA as we break down the 2024 In-N-Out Burger Pomona Finals. And it was one hell of a finals, man. Probably one for the ages. It's going to be a blast. We've got Dave W., the owner and founder of Drag Race Reference, in the building. And, of course, my brother, Darin Williams Jr. It's going to be fun, y'all. We're going to have a blast. So, look, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza season is over, but it was a blast. It was a blast. And, look, next year's going to be back up. So, you guys know that it's going to be something that'll probably be even more fun than it was this year, and they'll have more stuff to give in this upcoming year. But congratulations to the champions. Congratulations to the champion in our league. I believe that is Dave W. And we'll get this thing started after a word from our sponsor.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have Dave W. and Darin Williams Jr. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, D-Bland? How you doing, man? Glad to be on the show.
Man, it's going to be fun. What's up, Dave?
Good to see you all again. Boy, it's like old times. It's been a whole calendar year since we've been doing this. But, hey, I'm excited for it, man. It's going to be great. Pomona was probably a top 10 all-time NHRA national event with all the happenings that have been going on. And, I can't wait to break it all down with y'all.
Yes, sir. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that for sure. When we get to Top Fuel, I'll let you know. Go ahead.
It's just funny because I don't mean to cut you off, D-Bland. It's funny because I called both of you guys yesterday, and I was like, this World Finals was either top 5 or top 10, one of the greatest World Finals we've ever seen. And I was surprised both of you guys agreed with me because we had it all. We had, a winner-take-all final round. We had 340 miles per hour. We had a new a low ET of the season in funny car, 300 to the 8th. I mean, a plane crashed at the top end. Like, wow. So, and Dave knows this as a guy growing up in SoCal and going to Pomona all my life for the Winter Nationals and the World Finals. I always say Pomona should end at night, and we got a Pomona ending at night this past weekend, and it was cool and saw some great winners, crowned some great champions, and I'm ready to break it all down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're going to talk about where this ranks, but absolutely incredible here. We'll start with Pro Stock Motorcycle. We all knew that this thing was wrapped up, sewed up with a bow. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the run that really wasn't the run, but was the run that finally gave Gage his championship.
Both drivers away on the green. Clayton is 009 green. 677. Gage Herrera, 200 miles an hour. And now it is official. Gage Herrera is a two-time motorcycle champion for Revzilla, for Motul, for Vance and Hines. Congratulations, Gage.
heck of a job by Gage Herrera. Once again, securing a championship. What Vance and Hines has been able to do, amidst the changes that happened midseason, still able to keep things going. Pretty impressive. Dave, how do you categorize, or where do you put Gage in all of this as far as history goes? He's had a heck of a career so far, and he's probably very close to eclipsing the top guy who everybody knows was the top guy before. What are you thinking here?
I mean, in my personal opinion, and I'll say this with most of the categories that we seem to go through, you are witnessing history. We are living history right now. There has never been a performance like this in the history of the class. I mean, this kid has come in here and he's run 30 NHRA national events riding for Vance and Hines, and he has won 21 of them. 21 of them. 2 full-time seasons, 2 back-to-back championships, and where does it end? Let's don't forget. I mean, it seems like it's forever ago. I mean, John Force was still racing when this happened, but how about the consecutive win streak that happened all the way at Virginia? I mean, the records that he has set just across the sport is phenomenal, and the fact that it's only his second year, I mean, who knows? I don't see it ending anytime soon. I don't see him quitting anytime soon. I don't see the success going away anytime soon. But we're talking about somebody who 2 years ago had never even won a race, and now he is already, when it comes to the all-time win list in the class, is in the top 10 in wins. So, I mean, at 21 wins, you're already there, and the sky is the limit as far as I'm concerned. Now, some of these guys have raced for a lot of years and not put together the kind of success that he had. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it plays out. He's got a long way to go to catch the top of the class. Andrew Hines at 56. I mean, he's only a couple years away from that at least. But It's going to be interesting. And Matt Smith had mentioned, yes, the rules isn't really necessarily a rule change, but they're switching to VP race fuels across the board for next year. So he said that's going to throw everybody a curve, and they're really going to be working the dyno over the winter. So I guess that's going to be the real question mark, is what plays out in 2025. But for the last 2 seasons, watching this man ride this motorcycle, the records that he has set, the races that he's won, the round records, the low ETs, the top speeds, the number 1 qualifiers, I mean, you just got to sit back in awe and appreciate what he's doing for the class.
Most definitely. I love the history, and I'm sure you do too, Darin, with all of this. It's pretty impressive.
No, for sure. And like Dave mentioned, the sky's the limit for Gage Herrera. And let's look at it this way too. 21 wins, but he's doing this with the pro style motorcycle class, not going to the 20+ races like the nitro classes do. He's doing this with shorter seasons. So it's just amazing what Gage Herrera and that whole Vance and Hines team has done over the past 2 seasons. And man, I told Dave, this all the time when we used to do Inside the NHRA. When we're seeing history, I want to see how far it can go, and I want to see how far this can go and how far he can take this, and where he'll end up at in the win column when it's all said and done. But another great year for Gage Herrera, back-to-back double-digit win seasons for them. And I'll tell you what, Richard Gadsden isn't far behind. We're going to see him break through very soon.
Yeah, he's not far behind. Your number 1 qualifier for this event, because it was an event to win, was Matt Smith. And that went a little something like this.
Gage is already in the clutch. World title will not end here. 672-202, Matt Smith. Wow.
That's fast.
Absolutely blows the field away on both ends. 0.05 of a second and 2 mile an hour faster than anybody on a motorcycle. And Matt Smith says, don't write me off just yet.
And he was able to follow that up with a W. This is what we've been expecting from Matt all season long without the miscues that they've had. And those miscues likely potentially cost them a championship. I think we're going to see a better Matt Smith racing come 2025 season. They really made a late season charge in these last 6 races. All bikes were very consistent. Of course, they had some little minor issues as far as mechanically, but for the most part, you had 4 bikes that were really charging forward towards the end of the year, and they really finished strong as a team. I'm looking for them to really make some noise, along with a guy that some may have forgotten about, in old Steve Johnson. He made a charge as well. Great performance step up for those 2 teams. I think we're going to have a little bit tighter race next year. And I don't know how much the fuel changes things. Maybe it changes how you run the bike and timing and all those things. But we'll see. But I think it's a good into a season for a pro stock motorcycle class that at times didn't have full fields.
Yeah, for sure. And, Steve Johnson, it's going to be curious to see because they've been kind of hot and cold. Look at how he started off the 2022 season with all the performance there. And it was like, man, he's a real championship contender, kind of fell off a little bit. It wasn't really that spectacular this early season, but then came out at Dallas and really stunned everybody with the numbers he was putting down. Didn't really back it up in Vegas. And then he came out here. He came out swinging. But it's hard when the competition is as tough as it is. And, you mentioned these guys stepping up. I would like to mention, if we're looking at just the countdown and just the last 6 races, Gage Herrera had almost an identical countdown as Austin Prock. Gage Herrera earned 691 points in the countdown. Austin Prock earned 692 over the course of the countdown. So that's just how good the kid is. But take nothing away from Matt Smith, 622 points. He had a good countdown too. Gage didn't really run that far away from him, and those 70 points could have been had without the mechanical breakage. You look back at Reading, you look at some of these other events earlier in the season in the countdown, and it could have been a lot closer and a lot tighter when they got down to Pomona. So, yeah, a couple miscues here and there. The motorcycle field maybe isn't as closely packed as, say, Top Fuel is, but everybody's, starting to work their way back to having a more competitive field.
Here's your final points for the 2024 NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle season. Any surprises there you see there, Darin, with where people kind of fell in place in points?
No surprises really right there. I think it pretty much played out how we all thought it would. And I'll tell you what, we talk about Gage Herrera and Matt Smith, and like you said, who knows, how much the new fuel, the VP Racing fuel, will affect the performance for the bikes in 2025. But I would say, like Memphis Loney said in the comments, Matt had Angie and Gianna's bikes running well at the end of the season. And I think, don't overlook Gianna Evaristo next year in 2025. I think she's going to make some noise in the pro stock motorcycle class and maybe pick up that second win of her career this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really liked what Chase Van Zandt was doing this season. If they could have been more consistent, I think they could have found themselves, top 4 at least. But I do like what they're building over there. And I think they're also going to be ones that will be contenders. And, we don't have the Kelly Clances out there yet. Hopefully we'll get a few more bikes that will come and be consistent this year. I think Kelly's bike has a lot of potential in it, and it has shown at times. And I think they, with a full season and being able to start the season, well, I think they'll be able to make some noise here in 2025 because they do have a bike that can compete. That's your wrap up, man, for Pro Stock Motorcycle. And, man, we look at Pro Stock, and I'm telling you, it couldn't have played out any better than what it did. Man, you had Dallas, Aaron, and Greg fighting for the championship, and it's unbelievable. Greg Anderson pulls a Jaden Daniels and throws a Hail Mary, and he scores. He scores big. Unbelievable deal for Greg Anderson.
Yeah, without a doubt, the clutch performance of the season, at coming through at the end when it needed to happen the most. The ladder played out perfectly. It put the championship in each of the three drivers' hands, because it basically was, if you're going to win the race, you're going to pass Aaron on the way and you're going to pass Dallas on the way. So he had his chances in his hands. If he would have lost to Aaron, it would have been Aaron and Dallas, and it still would have been a winner-take-all final. So the ladder and the qualifying couldn't have played out any better for each of the drivers to control their own destiny. And, man, Greg's car was just on fire this weekend. I mean, the fact that he, on race day, dipped into the 640s is phenomenal. His 648 that he ran, the 648.8, was the quickest run in Pomona since Eric Enders went 648 flat, winning the championship in 2014 in the final. Ooh. I mean, we're talking a solid 10 years since anybody in a pro stock car has gone down that track that quick. So they were up on the wheel, ready to go. They had the setup right. Greg was hitting the tree. He didn't hit it in the final, and that could have been the end of it right then and there. But thankfully, the trusty horsepower worked, and the KB Titan Power pulled him around the top end and drove around Dallas, and the rest is history at this point. 6th world championship, tying Erica Enders and Warren Johnson with most in class. And really, in the NHRA pole classes at this point, only John Force, Bob Glidden, and Tony Schumacher have more than those guys. So, I mean, it's definitely a Hall of Fame career that just continues, again, still witnessing and living history every day in this category.
And this is the way you want to see it playing out in the 3 championship contenders' hands, right down to the wire, all 3 cars in the semifinals. And Dave just mentioned it. How about it? 10 years ago, we had a winner-take-all final between Erica and Jason Lyon, and in 10 years, not to the day, but 10 years to the race, we see another winner-take-all final round. This time between Greg Anderson and Dallas Glenn. And I'll tell you what, too. We talk about Greg, his dominance when he won his first couple of championships, but I mean, that man is pretty clutch. You go back to his 5th championship back in 2021. He had to defeat Erica to clinch it a few years back. So Greg knows how to get it done in the clutch, and he gets it done here in 2024. Like Dave said, his 6th championship overall, tying the guy he worked with back in the day, Warren Johnson and Erica Enders. And I mentioned this on Power Hour not long ago. I'm pretty sure Greg did not like that Erica had one more championship than him. I'm sure he's happy that he didn't. Retired again now.
He didn't.
Yeah.
And that championship run, it looked like this.
The Pro Stock Championship winner-take-all final to end the season. Both cars snap off the line. They leave. It is Dallas Glenn out first. How much performance does Greg Anderson have? Greg Anderson is a 6-time champion. 650 with a 1. 211 miles an hour. He wins by a measly stinking 0.02 of a second.
And I tell you, I felt bad for Dallas. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
The guy's worked hard all season long. He's back in position again to get a championship. And it just, a hell of a race. And all you can do is shake the man's hand. He did everything right. And Greg just had a little bit more on the top end. Want to say what's up to Walter as well. Thanks for tuning in. But he just had a little bit more on the top end. And the one thing about it, though, guys, Aaron and Dallas, along with Erica, and they're the leading dogs here of the youth movement, and they're going to be the faces of this class for a long time. Everybody knows how old Greg is, and he's got a few more years, but he's going to eventually hang it up. And those guys got plenty of time to win championships. It's just, man, when you want to lose, you'd rather just get beat, right? And the way you lose like that, it's going to sting for a while. But 2025, man, I think Dallas is going to be pretty fierce because that's going to linger. That's going to linger all off season long. He'll likely use it for motivation. And I expect him to be just as strong, if not stronger, in 2025.
Oh, 100%. And the sad part is Dallas Glenn, for the 2nd year in a row, won the full season if we don't have a countdown. He had the most points over the course of the season and has 0 championships to show for it. But we raced in a countdown, and Greg Anderson had the best countdown. I mean, he scored 633 points over the countdown. Aaron Stanfield had the second best at 613, and Dallas Glenn had 589. And when we look back at 2024, the heartbreaking loss for Dallas Glenn didn't happen in the final round at Pomona. It happened the first round at Las Vegas. I think that's where his championship hopes ended right then and there, because he goes a couple rounds in Vegas like he had been all year long. You don't get a mulligan in this class, it seems like. So he just, that first round loss is, I think, when we look back at the year, that's really what ended his season for him, unfortunately.
And not only do you have to feel bad for Dallas Glenn, but you got to feel bad for Aaron Stanfield as well. The heartbreak for him when you go into the final race of the season with the points lead and not walk out with the points lead, that's pretty heartbreaking right there. But like you said, Dujanay, 2 young guns in Aaron Stanfield and Dallas Glenn, the future of pro stock. They have a lot of years to come. But like they say, you have to lose to learn how to win. And these guys, they've come up short the past couple of years, but it's just going to fuel them and help them get better. And they're going to be top of the class very soon. But and I'll tell you what, I went to the Wars banquet yesterday in Temecula, the NHRA Wars banquet, and Greg Anderson gave Dallas Glenn his due. He said, "Man, you're going to be up here on the stage one day with this trophy," and I believe that. So tough break for both those drivers, but they'll be on top very soon, I believe.
Yeah, indeed. And here's your pro stock points finals points standings for 2024. Man, impressive year. And guess what, guys? We get Greg Stanfield back, as if this pro stock class isn't already crowded. We get Greg Stanfield back. So, man, that's going to be fun. But I'm looking for guys. Troy had a down year. Jag, pretty fair as far as his year. Had some early outs though when he needed to have the wins. He couldn't get them. And it's just a matter of sometimes the others are just better than you on any given day. But I'm looking for the Quadra boys to really, really make it tough on folks here in 2025.
They really do. I mean, they're up there. They're on the game. They are definitely factors on race day. I'm surprised, very, very surprised. We haven't seen any one of them in winner's circle just yet. Like you mentioned on Jag, I mean, his first full season back, and he put a couple of wins together on the board. Like you said, just kind of an up and down year. The real shock to me, though, is pretty much, and you're looking in that points list, 5th on down, just really was surprising. They just didn't seem to have it. And I mean, I hate to say that because Troy Coughlin Jr. even won a race back in Epping, but, they don't have the consistent race-by-race success that you almost forget about it. When you look over the course of the season, you almost forget that Troy won a race too. But the entire team as a whole, some of the bigger disappointments, on that side was Troy Jr., was Jerry Tucker not being able to perform as well. And on the KB Titan side, Camry Caruso getting injured and missing most of the season. Kind of showed a little flash of brilliance there at the Pomona Finals, but expected more from her, expected more from Matt Hartford, and 2025 is going to be a whole new season. I mean, the top 4 definitely got the targets on their backs, and I'm looking for some of these guys. And another young gun that I think has got to be in the mix is Corey Reed. I think he's going to be a factor in 2025 as well.
Yeah, he's broke some hearts this season, especially in the first round.
Yes.
What do you think, Darin, as far as this pro stock class and where this thing is headed?
No, and like we said, it was an amazing end to the pro stock season. And fairly enough, obviously with my focus, purely on the nitro classes this year here in 2024 with all the circumstances, I didn't pay full attention to pro stock this year. So I think one of the surprises for me was, not that Erica finished 4th in points, but the fact that she hadn't won since Gainesville, the first race of the season. I thought that was a pretty big surprise right there. And then obviously Troy Coughlin Jr. with that breakout season last year in 2023, for him to kind of fall off here in 2024 was also kind of a surprise. So, honestly, I think I'm not going to say it's a changing of the guard from what we saw this year, but I think, on Inside the NHRA, we always talked about Erica Gregg. I don't think that'll be the talk moving forward now. I think Dallas and Aaron Stanfield, those guys are here to stay now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And we will go to the nitro classes and start with Funny Car
Before we do that, though, Dujanay,
what's up? Go
I
ahead.
just want to congratulate Greg Anderson one more time for HendrickCars.com and Chevrolet getting that car the championship. Shout out to those guys right there.
Indeed. I love the sponsor plug as well. And we'll get to another Chevrolet that did something, well, spectacular after the break.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
And I think your next talking funny cars with Buddy Hall is Jack Beckman. Elon can slap my hand if I wasn't supposed to say that just yet. But I saw it, I think, on NHRA TV, and I think it is Jack Beckman. Either way, great show. Really cool stuff that we've learned from these shows, from the guys that have been on already. And I'm going to tell you, man, Funny Car was an exciting season, but dude, Austin Prock and the Prock family come into Pomona and they just had their own party. I mean, just showing off. I mean, what more can you say about this kid and what he's put together this season? I'll start with you, Darin.
No, an amazing season for Austin Prock, and obviously, you know, we've seen him in the top fuel car the past couple of seasons, but it just funny car just fit him, right? It just seemed right with him in a funny car, and obviously, we hate, you know, the unfortunate circumstances that happened with Robert Height, and Austin had to fill the seat, but we see this great season, but what really gets overlooked is that the very first race of the season in Bradenton, I mean, that car couldn't get past 60 feet in testing. I mean, they were struggling real bad. Jimmy Prock was ready to pack up and head home, and they were struggling. And then finally, that very last pass in testing, they got down the track, and then from there, it just clicked. And from then on, you know, that it's been hard to beat that car. And 8 wins this season, 15 number one qualifying qualifiers. You know, that's the record, obviously, in the class. Just an amazing season. And like you said, when they went to Pomona, had their own party. Low ET of the season, first 340-mile-per-hour pass. I mean, one of the greatest seasons in funny car history. I'm not just saying that. I mean, it really was one of the greatest seasons
really is
in funny car history. And, you know, they call him a rookie. He ain't a rookie, but he slapped on the class this year. Those Cornwall Tools boys, they put in the hard work. We're slinging on Cornwall Tools, and they got the job done this year. And congratulations to them. It was a great year.
It was. And before we get to the comment section, I'm going to let y'all relive. I've watched this clip like 50 times already, but I'm going to let y'all relive that 341. I'm just going to say, Tasker, that boy's salty. He's so salty. You run low ET, and then you come out here and take 341 from him. You know, I couldn't do nothing but laugh. I don't think anybody thought that it would be that car to go 341, but they sure did.
.382 to a 391. Austin Prock's going to win it. A little bit late on the chutes down there for Jason Rupert. He might have been busy clapping his hands. I don't think Jason's going to be too disappointed putting a 391 on the scoreboard. But, ladies and gentlemen, how about 341 miles an hour? Nobody in the history of drag racing has seen a number like that on the scoreboard at an NHRA event.
Well, the team is just arriving, and there's been screams up here at the top end, and I asked Austin Prock, did he hear what happened? He said, I saw it. How?
I'm comfortable in this thing. I've been able to catch the the scoreboard the last 2 runs. When we ran 80, I saw it, and right there I caught it as well. So just love Pomona. This is unreal, man. To run 380 last night and then go 341.68 to tie Tasca. This is one fast Chevrolet, and we're the first NHRA driver to do it. Woo!
Big time respect to Austin too for recognizing the fact that Jack, they tied Jack, but they were the first ones to do it in the NHRA. So big respect to him for saying that. But dude, nobody thought that car was going to be the one that run 340. I mean, and to do it in race conditions, it's just everybody got on Reinhardt for the call. And I'm going to tell y'all, I was sitting here watching it just like everybody else. And when I saw the scoreboard, I looked at it and I was like, that says 341. And for a second, I was like, because, that other car had gotten really close to him. And I thought maybe they might have, knocked the block off or something like that. And maybe it was some kind of faulty thing. And I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, that boy did it. And I think that's what Reinhardt was doing too. He was looking at the numbers like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
That can't be right. I wait a minute. Let me gather my thoughts here. He did do it. So don't crush him for that, because I didn't know it either. I had to do a double take. What about you, Dave?
I didn't even see it on the live timing, and when he finally said it, I clicked over to the other screen because I had a different screen up, and I was like, wow, there it is. Holy crap. I was shocked. It was a jaw-dropping moment because, yes, 100% did not anticipate it ever coming. And usually in eliminations, and honesty, I will say I, like Alan, was more surprised that Rupert went 391. I was looking at that just the same, and I'm like, oh, man, 391. Holy crap, look at Tasca's speed. Yeah. Didn't even see it, didn't anticipate it, didn't expect it, but there it was. History had been made, and the barrier had been broken. And I believe, like you had mentioned, it was stunning for it to come from that car, because if you look at Austin Prock's entire 2024 season, his second fastest run aside from that was a 3:38.43 back at Reading, and then a 3:36 back at Epping, were his two fastest that car has run all season long. And all of a sudden, they just pull 3 miles an hour out of nowhere, more than his career best, and go 341 miles an hour. So, I mean, that thing was just all in the mail at the top end of the racetrack.
And Andrew, I kind of agree with you a little bit. It was so much going on during this because they had reset the record with the ET, and then you come back and you got the championships going on, you got the championship battles going on, and then this happens. It was a big moment, but I know what you're saying. It wasn't a big moment that could be isolated and be like fully thought of, because I think the 300 to the 8th too was another thing that kind of just, we saw it. It was exciting, but there was so much other stuff going on. What do you think about that, Darin, in his comment?
Well, for me, I don't think it was very overshadowed. It was a pretty exciting moment. Because I was standing on the start line when it happened. And not only if Reinhardt was trying to gather his thoughts, not only were the fans in the stands, kind of trying to gather their thoughts and seeing what they saw, the people at home watching on NHRA.tv, you guys, even the AAA team was trying to gather their thoughts. So if you guys see our post on social media, that was actually my video that I was recording that we posted on Instagram, and the car goes down. I'm looking through the camera lens. They cross the finish line, and it's a round win. We're like, okay, cool. And then I pan, and some told me to just keep recording, and I kept recording. And you can hear one of the crew guys say, "Does that say 341?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot!" So you can see me. I pan back to the scoreboard, and then I hear them cheering, and that's where they're like, "Oh, 341," and it's like, wow, that is crazy. And then I look at the scoreboard, I'm like, holy crap, that's just 341 out of nowhere. It was a surprise. Like, nobody knew what was going on. I mean, everybody had to gather their thoughts. It literally came out of nowhere. So for me, I don't think it was overshadowed. And what I'm more surprised about is, how did NHRA have that speed limit 340 plus sign?
I was thinking that too.
You're ready to
how
go.
How did they have that ready? Like, it was just, they just had that on.
And is it a real sign?
Yes.
Like that one back there, it's a real one?
Yes, I guess so. I was like,
wow.
How did they have that ready?
I thought that somebody, when they went down to the top end, grabbed one real quick out of the Nitro Mall and ran down there with it.
Probably so.
Because that's the only thing I could think of. They weren't having it just floating around down there.
Can I actually have a question though? And you know, like I said, for me being in the moment on the starting line with the team, experiencing that, it didn't feel overshadowed. Do you think maybe because, and I just want to get you guys' opinions, our sport is an ET based sport, although 341 is amazing, was the 380 the night before kind of more impressive because we're an ET based sport more than a speed sport? I just want to get your opinions on that.
I'll let you go, Dave.
Oh, of course. Yeah. This put me on the spot. No, I don't think to me, if there was any type of overshadowing at all, it's just the fact that it was the first NHRA one, but it wasn't a number that we hadn't seen before. It was the same number that Tasca had ran. And just like Doug Coletta's 300 of the 8th, I mean, it's awesome, but he wasn't the first to do it. I mean, he added his name to the list, but you only get one first. Yes, it was a first on the NHRA side. But I think that in comparison of the 380, to me, I want to say that the 380 is more impressive simply because we have not seen that kind of an ET since the laid back header era. And to come out of nowhere and put down the 4th quickest time in funny car history, and then back it up on Sunday with the 9th and 10th quickest times in the semifinal and final round. I mean, those numbers are the ones that are shocking to me. The fact that they are getting the car there quicker, but that's where the speed comes from. Most people, I don't think, really realize and understand that these cars, they don't have speedometers in them. We don't have a radar gun at the finish line. Right. The speed is just a calculated time distance speed formula from the last cone to the finish line cone. That 66 foot is all you've got. And the only difference between Austin Prock's 341.68 and Robert Height's 339.87 of forever ago was 7/10,000ths of a second. Austin Prock basically traversed those 66 feet 7/10,000ths of a second quicker, and that's where the 341 comes from. So the speed is still a product of ET in a sense because of how it is calculated. These aren't live real-time things. I'd be curious to look at the team's graph and see what the wheel speed sensor said the front wheels were going, because he was probably closer to about 345 by the time he got the chutes out and got that thing slowed down. So speed's impressive, definitely an ET sport. For me, the 380 was where it's at. And if a 79 would come up, I almost think that that's more impressive than the 341. And I don't mean to say that it's overshadowed because it already happened before, but kind of one of these moments is like we're talking about. We go back 30 years. Kenny Bernstein in the semifinals goes 311.85, first over 310, comes back in the finals and goes a jaw-dropping 314. Nobody had ever seen a speed like that at the time. And it was shocking. You didn't anticipate it. But because Tasca did it this spring, every single national event, everybody's been going, when's Tasca going to do it? When's Tasca going to do it? And then here comes Prock out of nowhere and just steals it. So I think when you anticipate the stuff coming, it's definitely kind of takes away from it. But the ones that shock you, to me, are more meaningful because you never saw it coming. Though the jaw-dropping, holy crap, that really happened moment is what makes it more exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite direction.
Real quick, real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. I really want to know. I think it was the semifinal run when I mean he was getting so close to the wall and he still went 81. I was wondering how good could have that run been right there. That was going 81, hugging the wall like that. I mean, just imagine if he would have kept it straight. Like we could have seen another 80 right then and there.
Could have. That car was running so well that this past weekend, and I think 80s were easy. If he kept it in the groove, I think Dave's right. I think we could have seen a 79. And I agree that is impressive because of the fact that there are no more laid back headers. So to be putting up those numbers.
One funny car team has them, but he got thrown out.
Allegedly. We're going to get to that too, because I'm going to get back to your question. I'm going to get back to your thing, Lonnie, in a minute before we close out Funny Car. Yeah, the speed was impressive to me because of who it was. Nobody would have thought that it would have been a John Force racing car that would have done that. And that's not taking anything away from Prock or anybody there at John Force Racing. It just hadn't done it, and they hadn't even been close to that. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they run a 341.68. And I mean, like I said, I was like, that just happened? That just happened. And I'm like, by a John Force car on top of that. It was a shock to me because of who it was. But I do agree with you. It's an ET sport. Everybody says that. Everybody loves the low ETs. But I think because of who it was with the speed, you had to say, I had to say it had to be the most shocking thing. And guess who is joining us right now? He is, isn't he? I told you that boy is him. That's all I'm saying. Austin Prock is him. He said, I was with John when the record hit. He sat, paused, and smiled. And said, yep, that's fast. I love it. I love it. And to do it when he was there, man, that's impressive. I love it. Great moment for that team. And another great moment, Jack, who I figured would seal the deal here and get a W, gets a W in front of the boss in the hometown at the home track. What an impressive day for both cars of John Force Racing, who, again, I don't know how they're doing it. You don't have identical funny cars, yet we have identical funny cars. You only do that like in pro stock and stuff. Like you don't have identical funny cars and top fuel cars. That doesn't
All right,
happen.
hold on, Des, because we don't need the JFR insider talking head here, the fanboy, putting it all out. I'm going to put these numbers out here just to show how good the JFR funny car team is. All right? So
Love it. Let's go.
We talked about how the countdown played out. Most points scored in the countdown. Austin Prock, 692. Without a doubt, one of the best. Jack Beckman filling in for John Force, 602 points. Nobody else was even over 500. That's just how good those two team cars were. Let's take the countdown out of the equation. All right? Austin Prock went into the countdown with a 348 point lead. Wiped it all out. All right, let's just say the countdown don't happen. He still wins the championship by 599 points. Over guess who number 2 would have been? Jack Beckman / John Force. Even though they missed 3 races, Jack Beckman earned enough points over the 8 races that he ran. He still finished second in points. Even if you take the countdown away, they were just that much better than everybody else. Hands above better than everybody else across the team. They just this year alone, 4th quickest, 9th quickest, 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 20th quickest runs of all time. 9 of the top 10 quickest runs in funny car history came just this season. And most of them came just out of that team alone. Because, I mean, they're hitting it. Yeah, they are not identical tune-ups, I'm sure. They are very different cars. But the team in general is just putting the numbers down. Austin Prock, a 53-12 win-loss record for the season. 53-12. And it's his first year in the car. The last driver that had a 50-plus win season in their first season in a car, you'd have to go back to Gary Scelzi in 1997, who was 52-17. But he did it in 22 races, not 20. He won 5, and he won the championship as well. I mean, the stuff that Prock is doing, how about this? 8 wins on the season. Last driver to win 8, Robert Height in 2022. Beyond that, Ron Capps in 2017, Tony Pedregon in 2003, John Force in 2002. Hey, something sound familiar on there? Take Ron Capps out of the equation. These are all John Force Racing funny cars and drivers. I mean, they are just absolutely putting the numbers down. And it is amazing to me to see, how good was his countdown? Well, it was only the 2nd best ever. He went 19-3 in the countdown. J.R. Todd in 2018 went 20-4. So he had just 1 extra round win. But just the round wins between the two of them, the fact that they are able to go out there and qualify low, get all the qualifying points, get the session points, pick up the race wins, and just run over this field the way that they have is nothing short of amazing. Because Ron Capps didn't forget how to drive a race car. Matt Hagan didn't forget how to drive a race car. Bob Taska didn't forget how to drive a race car. Their
Right.
crew chiefs didn't forget how to tune a car. That these teams are just hands down better than everybody else has been throughout the course of the year. And because of it, Austin has made 137 passes in a Nitro Funny Car this year. Would have been 138, but they got shut off first round in or semifinals in Dallas because of the pan pressure switch, whatever happened there. 101 of those 137 passes have been 399.9 or quicker. 101 3-second passes out of 137 times down the track. Can you believe that? The 502 in the final round at Pomona, when he had to pedal it because it shook because it was too aggressive, was his 8th worst pass all year. The next best, that's okay. How about this? 53 of them have been 389 or quicker. The next best is Taska at 29. Beckman had 27. Capps had 25. Hagan had 23. Austin Prock has had more hits down the track, more runs quicker than everybody else, and more completed runs than everybody else. That's why these guys are the champs. These guys are kind of like very quickly turning into the Tony Schumacher U.S. Army team from the Top Fuel era of the mid-2000s. They don't miss anything. They are out there. They are meticulous. They have the attention to detail. They don't make mistakes. They don't go out there and overpower the track. They take what it's given them. Austin is killer on the tree, and they're putting down the round wins. You're seeing the beginning of a whole new dynasty, I feel like, if Austin stays in the seat. I hope when Robert decides to come back, they put him in a second car, because I'd hate to see this kid get out. He is just starting to be an amazing funny car driver.
Yeah. It is impressive what they have done. And I'll ask you, Darin, are you surprised at guys like Ron Capps, Matt Hagan? They had a rough season this year, not nearly as consistent as they were. Are you surprised by that, their performance this year?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised by the performance. Like Dave said, just, Austin Prock and Jack Beckman / John Forrest, they were just better than the rest of the field this year. And I want to back up just a little bit. You talk about John Forrest Racing last year. I mean, it was performance-wise wasn't one of their best years in the history of the organization. Obviously, John and Brittany went winless. Robert, struggled throughout the summer and came on strong at the end. Was in the battle for the championship, but for the most part, it was not a great year for John Forrest Racing in 2023. And obviously, Tim Fabrizi, Danny Hood, and Chris Cunningham, they did their homework in the offseason along with Jimmy Prock and Thomas Prock and the rest of the clan. And so they just came out swinging this year and put together one of the greatest performances in the history of the organization after having one of the worst. So, I'm not going to say, like Dave said, Ron Capps, Matt Hagan didn't forget how to drive a race car. Had Hagan won a few races this year. He beat John in the final at the 4-wide earlier this year. He won Dallas, so they were in the winner's circle a few times. They had a few highlights, but for the most part, just John Forrest Racing was just that much better than everybody else. They were the class of the field all year long. And I'll tell you what, too, we talk about Proc and how, they were just amazing from start to finish. I'm so happy to see, Tim Fabrizi, Danny Hood, Chris Cunningham able to run that 81 in the final round because, and like Jack said, he walked up to Proc and said, hey, let's go in here, give the fans what they want. Let's go shallow and see if we can get out of these race cars in the final round. And for them to go that 81 too, and to show that, hey, we can run with these boys and we can, be in that sphere with the Procs, I think was pretty cool. And like with Austin and Brittany winning, doubling up at Vegas, you couldn't run it any better. Couldn't run it any better with Proc and Jack Beckman battling it out in the final round of Pomona, and Beckman got the win and closed out the year for the Peak Squad with sweeping Pomona. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah. And how about Chad Green, Blake Alexander, the Wilkerson crew? You saw Dave Richards start to pick it up and find his groove as well. Those cars are making it difficult. It's already difficult, and now they're making it difficult on the field as well because they're performing and they're very consistent in going down the racetrack. It's going to be a heck of a year next year, and I agree with you guys. Pressure bust pipes, and we've seen the John Force effect in live and real action, and I think we saw the John Force Racing effect this year, where how great these cars are, and when you get up against them, you can't go in just to get down the racetrack. And it puts pressure on crew chiefs when they know that they're likely not going to make a mistake. And we're going to have to go out and win it. Puts pressure on drivers on the starting line as well. So what an amazing season, and what an amazing season in Funny Car it was. And I'll get to this question here. Lonnie says, any comments on Buddy Hull's video about the disqualification? I'll start first. I've been saying this for a long time. And it's finally a driver has had the guts to come out and call them out for the garbage. You can't be a professional operation, call yourself a tech team, and have paper mache templates for basically high performance and well tuned and built race cars. It doesn't work. It's like a aerospace machine shop just using any old templates that are cut out of one part to, qualify or to pass another part. And I can say that because I was a quality assurance inspector for 10 years in the aerospace industry. So a lot of stuff goes into that. There's a lot of things that go into making sure parts are correct per spec. And I agree, jigs and real stuff that are measurable need to happen. And you can't measure things when they're not on flat surfaces and there's so many variables. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. And the fact that he wasn't the only one that was disqualified. I believe JR was disqualified for the same thing. I don't believe that was the issue either. He made a very good point. Two different styles of chassis out there. So, I mean, if you want to, you can't be a professional outfit doing amateur stuff. Doesn't work. And they're going to have to come up and talk to different people, different drivers. These drivers and these teams have machine shops and come up with something that is tangible, because that's not tangible. Walking around with a paper mache template is not tangible.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because if you watch the video, Buddy had mentioned how it measured a certain way because of the way the ground was sitting. But if they turned the car around and measured it again, it was okay on one side, but not the other, just by turning the car around. Yeah. So my question is, why don't they just measure these things when they're on the scales? Because that's the flattest, even surface you're going to get, because that's where they're weighing them and doing everything else. Why wouldn't you put them all on even ground and all measure them in the same spot to do that? You know what I mean?
And you're saying weigh it with the driver in the car, correct?
But measure that, because that was his other point, was you're measuring header angles, you're putting these devices on there, and I'm not in the seat. The guy that's in the seat weighs differently than me. The chassis sits different. If we're running them across the scale, I mean, we do it with pro stock cars. We put them across the scale with the driver and all his paraphernalia on it. Then we roll them forward and check just the rear weight to make sure that the rear weight bias is, where it's supposed to be. So why don't we save the funny car template measurement and the header template measurement until the funny cars are crossing the scales with the parachutes on them, the driver in them, all of his gear sitting on the back. It seems like that'd be the easiest time and place to do it and not have all these discrepancies and variables.
I agree. And that may change it, but you're still going to have some type of a template or jig or whatever it is that is precisionally made and is accurate. Because there's things that are made in machine shops that are to the T, that they can go and they can measure different instruments with that particular built tool. But you can't do it with a flimsy, whatever you call that. And
you would think that they would make an apparatus that goes over the top of the car, so the car goes in it like a little tunnel, and it's got something on both sides, and that's what the headers either go through it or they don't.
Right.
And if they don't, you're out. If they go through it, you're good. And that's the easiest way. As went down the track, race. I mean, you're never going to have full race weight because you're out of fuel at that point. So it's nothing ever stays the same on any of these cars. Ever. No. And how do the guys get to the next round that blow the blowers off of them and tweak them and whatever else, and they bring out a backup chassis and go to the next round? Do they check their headers? What if their header was do they figure, you blew your stuff up, so you get a pass on if you were legal or not. I mean, there's so many variables in a professional sport, and my heart goes out to Buddy because the fact that they took his run away, he didn't have a run to fall back on to qualify for the field, and because of it, he's going to finish 13th and last in the countdown points that took him out of a 12th position that he would have had he made the show, and potentially, he wouldn't have caught Alexis for 11th, but it cost him a spot in the points at the end of the day, and round one money, which that team desperately needs because they're out here, a low-funded team on the tour. And I agree. There's got to be a better way to do all this, and it seems like common sense does not prevail in these situations.
Yeah, got to do better. If you want to be a professional sport, you got to have your tech department a lot more professional than that. And I thought Buddy said it well. They can talk to NASCAR. There's plenty of places you can go to figure this thing out and to have something that's a lot more accurate and isn't so arbitrary. I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to let you go ahead and answer that as well.
I'm just a video guy. I'm just a video guy. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just a video guy. I don't want to get in trouble here. I'm just a video guy, Andrew. So that's it,
ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm gonna say.
So the answer is no.
I would have said the same thing.
I'm just a video guy.
I can dig it, Ice Lee. I can dig it. That's for sure. I definitely can. What a funny car season, and we'll get into Top Fuel, and I will start with the Rookie of the Year. I will ask you guys first. Tony Stewart wins the Rookie of the Year. Again, I'm not against Tony or anything. He has no control over or what happens here. What do you guys think about it? And I'll start with you, Darin.
I was actually reading Drag Racing Mayhem's comedy saying blink twice if you're in danger, Darin, because that question from Andrew was trying to get me in trouble. So I was like I said, but what a fantastic Top Fuel Championship battle we saw yesterday in Pomona for the second consecutive year. It goes right down to the wire. Not the final round like we saw last year, winner take all, but still an amazing, exciting battle. Just like in Pro Stock where it played out in the championship contenders' hands, the same way in Top Fuel, 1 and 2 in points, duking out in the first round. Antron Brown comes out on top, but we're going to give Antron his respect and his due right here. But you got to feel for Justin Ashley, man. I'm kind of like the third year in a row that team has come up short. You talk about 2022. He went to Vegas, the second to last race of the year, with the points lead. Went to Pomona with the points lead. Came out, on the other end of that championship battle to Brittany Force. Last year had an amazing regular season, won all those races, won all those Mission Food challenges, and then obviously just unraveled in the countdown. And then this year comes into Pomona with the points lead once again. It comes up short. Got to feel for Justin Ashley, but I believe his time is coming. Just another tough deal for him and that team.
Yeah.
Good way to avoid the question.
You avoided that question, but that's
very
okay.
Well.
Dave, you're next because I'm not going to avoid it.
Well, mine is a very simple answer. As soon as they announced that there was going to be a Rookie of the Year class this year, Tony Stewart won it as soon as he signed his driver's license and said he was going to start running the season in Pomona. If there's anybody that thinks anybody but Tony Stewart was going to be Rookie of the Year, man, I got some oceanfront property to sell you in Kansas because that was a foregone conclusion. That was going to be the case. Whether it's a PR move, a publicity stunt, however you want to call it, I mean, it just was going to be. And not to take anything away from the other Rookie of the Year contenders at all. A lot of them didn't even run full seasons, so you didn't really have a full crop or contingent of rookie classes that I think that you could base it off of. I mean, Richard Gass is probably really the only other.
It was only top
strongest front runner on that, and I think it was really a foregone conclusion. They didn't even need to have a vote, and even if they did take a vote, the ballots probably ended up in the trash bin anyway because they were like, "Yeah, here's all your ballots. Okay, great. Tony, come get your award." It's done.
I like it. Andrew, what's up, baby? Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, yes, and that was a way for me to avoid the question, but me and Dujane talked about on Power Hour last week. For Rookie of the Year, it's not just your body of work throughout the season. There's other stuff that goes into it with the criteria, right? And I honestly, I thought Richard Gaston should be a rookie of the year just because, you know, the stats show it, you know, the finals, the semifinals, the qualifying, everything like that. Tony Stewart didn't have a bad season, but when I was at the awards banquet yesterday and they announced.
Did you just say he didn't have a bad season?
That man did not have a good season at all. He took a
go ahead. You just gave me fuel for the fire. Go ahead. Keep going.
It wasn't a terrible season for Tony Stewart, but like we said, the criteria isn't just your body of work. And when I saw the promotion that Tony Stewart did throughout the year, even before he even started driving, you know, about the NHRA and growing the sport, I mean, what really can you say? You know, so
I got a lot. I got a lot I can say. All right, that was a load of horse poop. Look, I understand what the criteria is, but I'm going to go with numbers first because obviously here in the NHRA, numbers really don't matter. All right, this man, Tony Stewart, was 17-20. His win percentage was under 500. You know what under 500 is in any other sport? Loser. Richard Gaston was 23-15, had a win percentage of 61.7%. Had a first round percentage of 84%. 0.550. Man went out 10 times in the first round, and in the countdown, he exited the first round 4 times. He was 3-5 in the countdown. All right. So women lie, men lie, numbers don't. Average qualifying position was 4.6 for Richard, 8.8 for Tony. And I'm going to tell you that really, if you want to really get down to the nitty gritty, Daniel Wilkerson likely laps him for second place. And here's why. He only had 8 first-round exits. All right. Winning percentage about the same, in the 40s. He had 4 first-round losses. 8 first-round losses to Tony's 10. He had 4 first-round upset losses, and he had 6 upset wins. When you get down to the bottom of it and you talk about the countdown, he was 500. He had 1 first-round loss. His qualifying position was 8.3 average. Went to 1 semifinal, 3 semifinals, 1 runner-up, 4 semifinals, 1 runner-up for Tony. So,
1 second. I want to add one more stat to your numbers.
Go ahead.
You like numbers. Numbers don't
Yes,
lie,
sir.
right?
That's
How
right.
How many races do the motorcycles run per year?
I think it's like
15, right?
Yeah.
So they run 5 less than the pro classes, right?
Right.
Richard Gadsden's season-long points total for 15 races, 1,071. Tony Stewart's points-long total for all 20 events, 1,077. In 5 less races, he only scored 6 less points in the entire season.
Okay.
And if you want to compare countdowns, because that's apples to apples, they run the same 6 races. 293 points for Tony and 424 for Richard. And since you threw in the spoiler there, Daniel Wilkerson, he had 346 points in the countdown, which gave him 1,038 for the season. So point-wise, Tony did have a little bit better, but, you know, Richard was second, and Richard didn't even run 5 of the races that everybody else did. So, yes, your argument is just that's one more example of 5 less races, same amount of points over the whole season.
And I'm going to add this. See, I do my research and I do digging. And first of all, the last 2 criteria I told y'all that they're really opinionated. Whether a person is a future star, that's an opinion. It has no place in Rookie of the Year. Media appearances, that's arbitrary too. And it's real arbitrary when the NHRA sets up and feeds you a lot of what you had. You don't believe me? The receipts are all over social media. Go look and see who's in the background in those pictures. So I'm not lying here. And I've got percentages, but I'm not going to throw that out there. It's a lot that were fed to him. He's also Tony Stewart. So if you're feeding guy a guy media appearances and you're not doing that for everybody else, then it is an unfair fight. And at the same time, he is Tony Stewart. He's Tony freaking Stewart. Of course, he's going to have media appearances and things that others do not. But if this is about media, and this is about media appearances, because that's what it appears to be, because it's apparent that we have media members who have a vote that is just a fan vote for them. Because that's exactly what this was. If you're going to do that, well, you can throw Edith Zetterstrom in that too, because she killed it with media. And a shout out to Allison McCormick for that promo and what they did for Rookie of the Year. Lining it up with the presidential campaign was a genius move. But look, apparently in this league, winning don't matter and winning percentages don't matter. Ask them about the countdown. We got 3 and 4 cars that can't even add up round win-loss record to even combine get them in the 10th place. Yet we doing it. So don't get it twisted. This ain't Tony Stewart's fault at all. I'm talking to you, the media, who have votes, who did not take this seriously, and apparently numbers don't matter. It's about media appearances. But let me tell you, it's cool that he has a lot of media appearances, but a lot of those were fed to him too. But cool. I really am embarrassed to have a vote, especially this year. It really feels like the NFL Hall of Fame votes an absolute and utter joke.
No, and you said it perfectly, Dujanet. It's not Tony Stewart's fault. And I mentioned, I told Dave this, I told you this, I told Drag Racing Mayhem this. If I had a vote, like I have in the past, I would have voted Richard Gatson, just based off the stats, the body of work. But you can't fault Tony Stewart for the opportunities he was given for media, for promoting the sport and things like that. So when they announced Tony Stewart was the Rookie of the Year yesterday at the Awards Banquet, I had an audible gasp. I was like, oh, because I thought it was going to be Richard Gatson. I'm not going to lie. But, you know, hey, it is what it is. And
I wasn't surprised. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't surprised. This is the same organization and group of people that try to sell us on it being the biggest announcement in NHRA history, which is an opinion statement.
One of the biggest.
So
one of the biggest.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's an opinion statement.
What that was.
It's an opinion statement.
What was the biggest announcement? I don't even remember. What I remember it happened, but what was it?
Exactly, because it wasn't.
Yeah. What was the announcement? What did they announce?
Tony Stewart going to Top Fuel.
Oh. Okay. Well, that should have told you right there who the Rookie of the Year was.
Yeah.
But again, it's like Darin keeps saying, it's not Tony's fault. Tony's just out here being Tony. Tony's out here doing his thing.
Right.
He loves drag racing. His NASCAR team is no more. They have closed their doors at the end of the year. Tony Stewart, aside of being a driver, is a team owner. He's got 2 Nitro teams that are out there competing. He's got some of the biggest sponsors. He's behind the wheel. He's a father. Congratulations to him on that. I
Absolutely.
mean, he and Leah had a very healthy baby boy on Saturday night, came back, still ran first round Sunday, and picked up a round win that I didn't think was going to happen. Cost me a lot of money, but that's okay. That's all right. It's drag racing. That's why you don't bet on it. But hey, I mean, the man's just out here doing his thing. I hope that nobody would see this and think that it's a Tony Stewart bashing, because it's not. I mean, Tony is Tony, and he's out there doing his thing, and we love him out there racing. I just don't know that, like you said, the popularity contest was going to go any other way.
Yeah. My problem is, don't tell me about numbers and winning percentages then, because obviously that stuff didn't matter. He was 45% win percentage. And he wins Rookie of the Year because he got a whole bunch of a lot of media appearances handed to him. Good for y'all. I'm done with it. Look, this was an absolute crazy race. Doug Coletta does something that we ain't never seen before, other than one other time, and that was my man Mike Salinas doing this thing. And I'm going to put up that run here in a minute. You got something to say, Darin?
Yeah, I just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit. You guys were getting on me about diverting the question. Real talk, like I was reading Drag Racing Mayhem's comment. I didn't even hear your question, Dujane, the first time. So I was like, oh shoot. I should have just said, what was your question? I should have had a John Force moment. It was like, hey, what was the question? Just in the moment. So,
Exactly.
Don't beat me up too hard in the comments. Okay. So we're gonna break down this whole top 2 championship battle right now. So
yeah. And Doug Coletta does something special too. He goes 300 to the 8th. What a season for him. Didn't end in the championship, but man, this was awesome.
.365.0 Doug Coletta. And wow, Doug Coletta went 300 miles per hour to the 8th mile.
You'll take a look at Doug Coletta becoming the.
We're going to cut that short. Lonnie said it too. A couple guys went 299. We're very close to going 300 to the 8th as well.
Yeah.
What a top fuel battle. Brittany Force, who I called it again. I really thought she could pull this off. But that lost session on Friday, even if she was able to pull it off in the final, really would have done her did her championship points in, because she would have missed by 2 points. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. That's the sad part about. I know somebody had commented on one of the prior shows that they hate that qualifying points matter and play into a championship, and that can decide your season or your position standing. The only reason I hate it in this instance is because you lose a session. You are taking somebody's opportunity to earn points away from them. You know, in NASCAR, if they cut the race short, everybody still gets the points. That doesn't matter. Right. Like you don't really, if you take that session away, how basically both of them, I mean, all of the championship drivers, thankfully it happened right when Brittany was in lane, you know, in getting to the 8th, Brittany and Tony were in the lane, so they didn't get to make runs because, I mean, imagine if they would have run low and it would have counted, but it didn't necessarily count for points. And you lose both of those sessions. That was 8 potential points that somebody could have had one way or the other. Yes, obviously it didn't matter because Antron went out and won the race. But if Antron didn't win the race, Doug Coletta wins the race. You know, you start swapping these points positions around real quick. And all of a sudden, those 8 points for that session that you missed and the position points that you missed, if Antron Brown goes out there, now Doug Coletta could have won that final round against Antron without changing anything. He would have lost by 2 points. You think they would have won Friday back? Not saying that Antron couldn't have scored some points too, but when you're in your last race of the year and you're taking away the opportunity in the window for these guys to make up ground, I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible to say. And there was a point when it got to the semifinals, you could have had a Brittany and Doug final, and Brittany could have won the race, and the top 3 in points would have finished all 2 points apart. Antron would have won a championship, and Doug and Brittany would have tied for second, -2. That was a mathematical potential outcome as late as the semifinals. So yes, those 2 sessions being lost is a pretty big impact overall.
Yeah, I felt bad about that. It really kind of put a damper on some things that we could have had. But what a deal by Brian Karate and team. Antron staying focused and really having ice in his veins. That's tough, knowing that you got to win this to get it. And it can't be anything going wrong here. Had a little bit of a delay with it as well. Pretty impressive stuff from Antron and his team, Darin.
Imagine this. 1 and 2 on points. Qualifying ends, and you see you're going to match up in first round. You have to wait all night. You have to sleep through it. It's on your mind. You can probably barely sleep. You're anxious. You're nervous. You get to the morning, national anthem. You're pumped up. You get all psyched up, and you're sitting on the starting line at Pomona. It's the World Finals, last race of the season, championship on the line, 1 and 2 on points, and a plane comes down and crash. And you're delayed for 2 hours, and you got to think about it some more. Think about that.
Yeah.
I would not want that pressure at all. That is some amazing, intense pressure. I mean, shout out to Justin Ashley and Antron Brown for having to go through that. I mean, they are literally the pair on the starting line.
Yeah.
We're about to see how this championship battle is about to play out, and then this happens. And for them to come back and put on the show that they did for the fans at Pomona, I mean, it was amazing, spectacular. Side by side to the finish line, 1 and 2 points. Obviously, Antron Brown came out on top. I mean, you can ask for that. That's top field racing at its best right there. And I told Dave, you know, obviously Antron didn't have the best car in qualifying, but hey, man, ice water flowing through his veins, like D'Angelo Russell does. Ice water flowing through his veins, and they got the job done. And I told Dave, I was like, hey, you know, do not count on Antron in this first round. And he went up there. I believe he left first and had the better car and got the win. And unfortunately, with Langdon winning, that could pretty much, you know, exit out Justin Ashley's chance for a championship. So, like I said at the top of the show, you know, tough break for that whole Skag team and Justin Ashley for the 3rd year in a row. But I believe he will have his chance. But for Antron Brown, 4th top field championship, surpassing guys like Larry Dixon, Gary Selzy, and of course Shirley and Garlitz, and 2nd all time on the all time top fields wins list. I mean, Antron Brown, he is one of the greatest.
It's crazy. You know, I was looking at the other drivers. You talked about Sean stepping up, and you know, after having the issue that they had where the tire blew out, they had to, you know, front half and back half this car and come out and run the numbers that they did was absolutely impressive, because you changed what you had. You know what I mean? You don't know if this thing's going to respond the way it had prior to this incident. That was really an impressive job by Coletta Motorsports and his team to be able to just come out and seamlessly just come in here and swing the bats, looking to try to hit a home run and have an opportunity to snag a championship.
Well, and to add to that, you know, Darin's talking about these two guys. They were 1 and 3 by the time they came up in points for the first round. But how about, like you mentioned, Sean Lane coming in, the pressure of knowing that you've lost both runs on Saturday, no test hits on the car. You go up the first run Saturday and smoke the tires. You are going into the final qualifying session of the final race of the year, and you ain't in the show. And you and Clay Milliken got to go up there and get down this track with this new piece and put it in the show to even have a shot on Sunday, and then go out there and run a 365 and put it solidly in the field. I mean, that to me, that was just as much of a pressure run on that whole team as the first round Antron Justin Ashley matchup was. Yeah, they really came in, and man, I really did not at all expect them to go out there and blow the tires up. That had to be a mechanical failure or something in the clutch that went bad, because that car did not make it very far, and it just annihilated the tires. And the amazing thing is the fact that Antron also smoked the tires, but Sean had the blower bang, and it blow the relief panels, and it disables the throttle and throws the parachutes out, and it doesn't even give him a chance. No. He just watches Antron pedal his way to a championship. I mean, that had to be doubly heartbreaking for Sean to see that happen too.
And it sucked, Darin, to have not only you got to worry about your competition. 8 drivers come into this thing. I believe probably by the end of qualifying, it was probably 7 coming to this thing with an opportunity to win a championship. And you got guys like Sean Reed running career best. You got Gary Pritchett out here in Travis Shoemake's car being a thorn in people's side and having to, you know, giving people bubble guts, worrying about whether they can get around that car. Top Fuel was not just with the championship, but just with everyone else. Clay, for instance, Jimmo just throwing home runs. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, qualifying wasn't the greatest for them. They didn't put up, you know, Brittany Force numbers or anything like that, but then they come out and, you know, in eliminations is like, wait a minute, watch this, guys, and put themselves in position to have an opportunity to win a championship. It's just all around just impressive stuff in Top Fuel. Yeah,
and so all you viewers at home, I'm sorry, Antron was 3rd going in. It wasn't 1 and 2 points in that first round matchup. I got to admit when I'm wrong. Langdon was 2nd going into final eliminations. Antron was 3rd. So it wasn't 1 and 2 points, but 1 and 3 points in that first round matchup between Justin Ashley and Antron Brown. But like you said, top fuel is cutthroat, and it's been cutthroat for the past couple of years. It's been cutthroat for a very long time, and it's great to see the performance coming back in top fuel as well. You talk about, this year, a 371, say at a certain racetrack, would have been a 366 low in previous years. So obviously there are some chassis changes over the offseason, and took these crew chiefs and these crews a little while to kind of get back to normal. And we saw that here this weekend. We've been seeing it from the countdown on. And I'll tell you what, Brittany Forrest, her performance in the countdown has been amazing. I mean, just solidly in the mid 360s. Qualifying number one at Indy, Dallas, Vegas, Pomona. Just performance of that monster team has really come on strong here in the back half of the season. And so watch out for her in 2025 and that whole monster team. But no, top fuel is cutthroat. And like I said, for the second consecutive year in a row, it's just an all-out battle for that top fuel championship going right down to the wire. Didn't go to the final round this year like it did last year, but still was fun to see.
And the top fuel class is going to get even more crowded. First of all, guys, I don't know. I would be running the funny car because it ain't as crowded. It's going to get more crowded in 2025.
You want to go to funny car and get smacked down by the JFR team?
At least I got a chance to get in the 16 car field at some point. I'll take that L, because you know what? If I have to face them, I'm double bulbing the crap out of both of them. No sooner I come back in and they put that body down, I'm going right in, and I'm going to make you think about it. I might get cussed out on the top end, but I don't care. It's within the rules. Oh, man. What a season, guys. I want to ask you, though, Dave, what would it have been like without the countdown in top fuel?
Doug Collette is your champion by 30 points.
Wow.
Man. Here's the funny thing. So he would have been the champ. 30 points back would have been Antron. Justin Ashley would have been third. Sean Langdon fourth. Steve Torrance fifth. The interesting thing to me, since we're just looking at kind of how their countdowns played out, Doug Collette, Justin Ashley, and Sean Langdon almost had identical countdowns. Justin Ashley and Sean Langdon did. They had 432 points each that they scored over the countdown. Doug Collette scored 429. They were basically the second half of the top five. The second best driver of this countdown, Brittany Force, with 462 points. And no surprise, coming from fifth all the way to first, the best driver of the countdown, earning 538 points, Antron Brown over those 6 races. So, wow. Like you said, the numbers don't lie. They had an off and on year early in the year. They had first round struggles, they had wins, and you never know what car you were going to get. But over the countdown, they had the best of the rest, if you will. And it's amazing to me to think, as you look at what these guys earned over the last 6 races, we're talking about pro stock bike, and funny car drivers earning 600 plus points. And the most in top fuel was Antron at 538, and everybody else is in the 4s. So that just tells you how upside down the ladders are in top fuel and how competitive that class is. There was nobody that was really a clear-cut favorite until the final race day of the year. And like Darin said earlier, and like you've mentioned, Antron Brown stepped up to the plate, and man, that whole team, they hit one out of the park, especially for Mark Oswald, who's retiring at the end of this year, another legend of the sport. And
I'm sad about that.
First round for AB Motorsports, his team, and it just a momentum builder. And it just, there was nobody in that top 7 or 8 that had a chance that wasn't going to be a feel-good story. And it just turned out that it was Antron's day. They rose to the top when they needed it. And, without a countdown, they'd have come up a round short, but that's okay. We race them, and we do what we do, and it is what it is. And he's a 4-time champ.
Yeah. Real quick, your thoughts, Darin, and I'll get your thoughts too on points and a half, good or bad, Andrew says.
Points and a half at Pomona. That's a great question, Andrew. I'm kind of torn between it. From the entertainment side of it, I love it. It just makes it that much more exciting. There leaves a lot of guys still mathematically alive going into the final race of the season. But I think when you already have a countdown, I feel like that's already enough entertainment needed. You don't need points and a half at the World Finals. So like I said, I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of torn by it. If I would like it more if there was no countdown and it's just a full season points deal and you just happen to throw in points and a half of Pomona just for that deal. I would like a little more, probably throwing points and a half of Indy too. But when you have a countdown, I don't necessarily think it's needed. I think it's just more of a gimmick. So and we've seen championships lost, with points and a half, and it kind of sucks to see. So if you're not mathematically alive with the regular point system, I don't think you should be alive going into the final race of the season with points and a half. Just my opinion.
Dave.
I mean, the way it played out, the other classes would have been pretty well sewn up. Aside from, I think Pro Stock, you might have had a couple of man race there because they all still finished pretty close in points in general without it. Dallas Glenn won without a countdown, 54 over Greg and 60 over Aaron. But Top Fuel still would have had 5 drivers going into the final race without a countdown, which when you consider, I don't think that people race any differently because it's the countdown. I know that the old theory was you save your best stuff for it and whatnot, but you've got that points reset. Do you need the points and a half to actually help build the drama? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's hard to say. But I think everybody knows the rules going in, and I think that it definitely builds excitement. And I think that for me personally, if I'm first in points, I hate it. Mm-hmm. If I'm fourth in points with a chance, or I'm third in points, if I'm Greg Anderson coming in going, you know what, if this is a normal Reese weekend, I'm really hurting. I'm really struggling. If I'm anybody in Top Fuel coming into this race that was pretty much anybody but the top 3, I'm going, man, I'd really love that extra boost. And what's more exciting, a 3-man championship that would have been over with by second round because the top 3 in points ended up having to race each other all in the first 2 rounds, or having 7 guys going and you don't know what happens to the finals. So, I mean, if you like drama and you're the guy in the back, I love it. If I'm if I'm Justin Ashley, I'm going, man, just get me 2 rounds and I'm the champ. So it's hard to say, but I'm a fan of the sport. So yes, please, by all means, keep them points and a half.
Well, Dave, and I know we're running kind of long, and I know you want to wrap this up, but just one more question. One, do you think there needs to be some tweaks to the countdown? Do you think there needs to be changes to the countdown? Do you think the countdown has run its course? And 2, do you think the Mission Challenge has done what it's supposed to do to award, the regular season champs to where they don't get screwed in the countdown?
The only tweak that I see that needs to happen is to have a true top 10, because first of all, I think it killed a lot of the drama, like a Paul Lee who had an opportunity. It really just didn't matter because the other guys are going to get in anyway. Having a true top 10 creates a little bit more drama. I think you'd see a lot more pressure from a lot of other teams that had an opportunity to possibly get in that 10th or 9th spot because they were close. I don't mind the Mission Foods points. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say if you need to adjust the countdown. I think that's the main thing they need to adjust in the countdown is that. I think the Mission Food points are cool. I don't think it made much of a difference because we still, the best are the best for a reason. And those who were more consistent and were able to go out there and do it race in and race out, they especially when you talk about funny car and pro stock motorcycle. And of course we had a points race down to the end, but those who consistently do it deserve to be there. And that's just how it usually plays out no matter what the points are. So that's the only tweak I see.
And the reason why, and I want Dave's opinion on this too, and the only reason why I asked, and it's because I'm gonna just use Austin Prock as an example. For a guy, it's for the guy who has such an amazing regular season and builds up this just an enormous points lead, and it just gets wiped away. And I know the rules are the same for everybody, and everybody knows the rules going in. We all know that, but I still just don't think it's fair for a guy. And I'm just like I said, I'm just using Austin Prock as an example. There's been other drivers in the past who've had this.
Yeah.
You have such an amazing regular season, and you build up such a huge points lead, and then after Indy, it's just gone. To me, that I just don't really think that in that case is fair.
And
Look,
Drag Race Mayhem makes a good point too. So
we can do an entire hour on this next week because we do have to break this thing down in so many different ways. And the same topic has come up on the NASCAR side of things with Joey Logano winning the championship, basically working his way through the playoff system, but having, he would have been 15th or 16th best average finish or, in points without it. So, yeah, I mean, how do you really qualify the legitimacy of a championship? Everybody plays by the same rules. Everybody knows what's going in. You've heard my thoughts on it before. Top 9 get in on points. Everybody else that attended to all the races, guess what? You get to run the Mission Foods Challenge at the first race of the countdown, and if you win that, you get 10th spot. You earn your way into the last spot. For the Paul Lee fans, he still, even though he skipped 3 of the countdown races, would have finished 11th in points, 835, only 60 behind Alexis DeJoria. So when he went to the other 3 races and qualified, he'd have been a top 10 car. And if he won a couple of rounds, he probably would have passed Chad Green as well. So, yes, he would have been a top 10 player if the countdown didn't exist, or not the countdown, the participation award part of the countdown. Do you reward winning more? I mean, it's hard to argue against it when you've got guys like Austin Prock and Gage Herrera who just run over the field, and it makes it kind of uninteresting. It gives everybody a chance. But then you have Top Fuel with 8 guys going into the last race with a chance. I mean, who doesn't love that? And it still took the countdown to make it happen. And I will say that in all my points calculations, I did not do a with and without Mission Foods points. So I know that Dallas Glenn was pretty much in dang near every Mission Foods challenge. And Greg Anderson wasn't in as many of them. So that could have, even with the Mission Foods challenge, it wasn't enough bonus points to push Dallas Glenn to a championship. It helped, but it wasn't enough. And in Top Fuel, I mean, none of them were close enough that those baby points would have made it a difference in the end. So this year they don't. Next year they might. Every year is different. And like I say, we could sit and have a whole topic, a whole hour on how points are calculated from the start of NHRA, or how championships have been determined from the start to current, and in other forms as motorsports, and which is best and which isn't, and how we tweak it. But I mean, at the end of the day, in my opinion, the rules are what they are. Everybody knows it going in. Paul Lee lost on a whole shot first round in Indy and lost his chance at being in the top 10. I'm sorry to say it, but he lost.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just one of those things, man. But I do like your idea about the racing for the 10. Man, it's been a hell of a show. I appreciate you guys sticking with us. I knew it was going to be long, a lot of stuff to talk about, and we're going to have more shows. We will not have a show next Tuesday, but you can tune in tomorrow if you're available at 5 Eastern. We will have the 4-time Top Fuel champion, Antron Brown, on a special edition of the NotBland Show tomorrow. So we'll be talking with him about his season and how he feels about this championship. So if you can tune in, we may premiere it again later on in the week so that everyone can try to see it there. Again, thank you all for watching this show, supporting it. Guys like Scott and Lonnie, many support this show, and I really appreciate that. You guys.
Was he frozen for you too, Darin?
I was like, am I frozen or somebody else?
No, I think he's frozen.
I was like,
oh no, he's back. He's back. There he is.
It's like,
for Sports Journey.
Okay, he's back.
For Sports Journey.
No,
boy.
His name.
What?
Dave is so straight faced. I thought he was frozen too. I'm like, oh, it's me.
Yeah, that was wild. For Sports Journey, for the NotBland Show, for Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, this has been the NotBland Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.